Hi, welcome to Teen Pride Book Talks. My name is Lucy, and this is the program on AADL TV, where each episode I take a few minutes to talk about a young adult book that is both representative of and inclusive of folks in the LGBTQIA+ community. The book that I would like to tell you about today is a graphic novel. It is called Belle of the Ball, and it is by Marie Costa. This is the story of three high school girls. It's sort of a love triangle, although it is subverted in a way that I really enjoyed. So the book is about a girl named Hawkins, who is the school mascot. She's very much a wallflower. She kind of keeps to herself. And then this cheerleader named Regina, who goes by Gina, and Gina's girlfriend, Chloe, who is this really star athletic student at the school. In the beginning of the book, Hawkins gets brave enough to take off her mascot head and to ask Regina out, thinking that Regina and Chloe are no longer together. And she finds out they are, and she's very mortified and she's embarrassed. But what comes out of it is sort of this friendship between Hawkins and Regina. And it is a friendship, but Regina also kind of uses Hawkins as like this sidekick or follower. It's an interesting dynamic for a friendship. At the same time, because she's friends with Gina, Hawkins gets this opportunity to tutor Chloe. While Chloe is a wonderful athlete, she is not a very good student. And in their interactions together, Chloe goes to Hawkins' house and she remembers something about Hawkins, whose first name is actually Belle, and thus Belle of the Ball. And you realize that they knew each other earlier. And so then we get these little bits going back to some interactions they had when they were kids and how they were friends and how they played together. And it seems very different from the two girls that we have been introduced to, these two high school students. Or is it? Because as this book goes on, you start to see some of those pieces of who Chloe and Hawkins were when they were younger and their friendship and how that foundation is still really there. And this is where this dynamic between these three girls is very interesting. Regina is not the most likable character, I would say. She seems to really only be looking out for herself. She wants to do really well in school. She wants good grades. She loves to go shopping. These are not things that really mesh with what Chloe wants or what Chloe does. But Chloe sort of goes along with being bossed around by Gina, and Hawkins does in a way too. And it's only when Chloe and Hawkins start to develop their own friendship that they come out from under that shell a little bit and they start to do things that interest them. This book is generally pretty low stakes, good feeling, fun book to read. It's got this love triangle, but the conflict is not so unbearably tense that it's hard to get through or it makes you anxious to read it. And even though I said Regina is hard to like, she really isn't doing anything to anyone that's harmful. She's just really looking out for herself. One of the things that I think is so interesting about this book is the entire book is in shades of pink and a little red and white. But when you first start it, or when I first started it, I was like, oh, this whole book is pink. And that seems a little different. Here's a picture of Hawkins as the school mascot. This is Regina. I got used to it and I sort of stopped noticing it, and I realized it really does work for this book very well. There are certain tropes that are subverted in this book, like the love triangle. That's definitely subverted heterosexual relationships in and of themselves. You know, there's this star athlete, there's the cheerleader, and there's a prom, there's the mascot, this wallflower, but all three of them are queer girls. And in a lot of books, this would be like the athletic football player boy and the cheerleading girl. So there's that general subversion where it's just sort of taking something that can be very heteronormative and really flipping it on its head. I really enjoyed this book. I highly recommend it. As I said, it is pretty low stakes as far as the drama, so that just makes it a really enjoyable, feel-good read. There are some amazing illustrations, even just with the color, and one of the things that the coloring lends itself well to is the costumes in this book. There are some scenes. There's a prom, and then there's a part where Chloe and Hawkins go to a Ren fair. And so I liked seeing how Marie Costa used those scenes to create this more intricate costuming, but it's still all in the same color. I haven't read a graphic novel that's all in pink, and I enjoyed that experience. Normally I just talk about one book per episode, but I wanted to mention another graphic novel because I just finished it. And I enjoyed it in the same way, very much so that I enjoyed Belle of the Ball. And it is called Basil and Oregano. And this, again, is a book that sort of takes tropes that you might know and changes them a little bit and subverts them. So Basil and Oregano takes place at a boarding school that focuses on magic, but the magic is done through the culinary arts, which I thought was very interesting. So you're getting a little bit of like that magical boarding school mixed up with, you know, a baking show kind of experience. So the students there are using their magic to bake, and that is how they've learned to do this. And the two main characters that we really focus on, Basil and Oregano, are a girl named Basil who is there on scholarship. Her two fathers have worked really hard to secure her this scholarship to this school, and for her, she knows she really has to do well. She has to, in fact, be like the top student in order to maintain that scholarship, and the top student position is achieved through a lot of competitions. And then Oregano is a completely different kind of girl. Her name is Arabella Oregano, and she is the daughter of this very famous chef. So she's coming into the school with this sort of known magic culinary, they call it, ability. And all the students in the school get familiars, but they share familiars. So Basil and Oregano end up sharing a cat that they call Tomato. That is their familiar. And so they sort of become partners. And then everyone partners up for this final cooking festival where they're going to have this big competition. And Basil and Arabella get to know each other really well as friends. And then even as something more, they start to realize that they really like each other. I love the combination of magic and culinary arts because in this situation, baking is something somebody can do without magic, but magic adds another element to them. There are certain stories that have magic in them where the magic involves things that you couldn't do at all without magical abilities. We realize as we're reading this book that Arabella kind of has a secret about her abilities, and people make assumptions about what people can do based on where they are from. The reason that I'm pairing this with Belle of the Ball is that it is another YA queer graphic novel. This has these two girls who fall in love. Basil's best friends are a non-binary person and a trans girl at the school as well. And then again, though it has this competition and you're not sure how it's going to turn out, it's still pretty low stakes as far as how dramatic it's going to be and how much anxiety it's going to stir up in a reader and what the big situations are. Nobody faces anything extremely traumatic or dangerous, just like Belle of the Ball. And it was equally as enjoyable to read. This one is in full color and it's sort of influenced by manga and anime in the style. This book is written and illustrated by Melissa Capriglione, and I enjoyed her style as much as I enjoyed the style of Belle of the Ball, even though they were very different. So those are two graphic novels that I have recently enjoyed, and I recommend that you try one of them or both of them, Belle of the Ball and Basil and Oregano. Thanks for joining me.